Welcome to MSCP Woodworking. In today's video, we will turn 5 Bud vases using only gouges for practice. If you watch a lot of turning videos, you will hear the term riding the bevel a lot. Here's an explanation. The bevel is the part of the wood turning tool that is ground into the end of it. Riding the bevel is where you place the bevel of the tool flat against the rotating workpiece. Tilting the tool toward the cutting edge slightly will cause the tool to begin cutting. In this position, the bevel part of the tool is just skimming the freshly cut surface of the wood. This will give a cleaner cut with less chance of digging uncontrolled into the wood and possibly ruining your work. The initial steps in making all 5 of these Bud vases is the same. You start with an appropriately sized chunk of wood. In the example that you're watching right now, it's a chunk of a branch from a tree. All 5 of these are done this way. It doesn't have to be a branch from a tree though. It can be just any chunk of wood. In this case, I would orient the grain the same way on the machine. And that's all you need for that. Once you have that, mount your piece of wood between centers and turn it round. All the Bud vases in this video were turned from branches of gray alder or gray birch. These are easy woods for me to get access to. They are resistant to cracking. They dry easily. They're very easy for me to process, and I have a lot available, so that is the kind of wood that I generally practice wood with. If you need to square up the ends, you want to do that at this stage. Make the one end square and turn a tenon on the other end for the lathe chuck to hold on to. Your next step is to take that blank and mount it in the chuck so that you can turn it and have access to the other end. In the tailstock of your machine, you're going to mount your Jacob's chuck if you have one, and install a 3/8 inch drill bit and drill your hole to the desired depth. Don't drill through the bottom of your blank. Drill it so that whatever you're going to be putting in this Bud vase doesn't just tip over or fall out easily. But you want to go deep. You don't want to go too deep and make a hole in the bottom of your Bud vase. If you don't have a Jacob's chuck, this hole can be made with the drill mounted in a handle. I have one of those made up and I do use it, or I have used it in the past before I had a Jacob's chuck. After this point, the work is all my imagination. All 5 Bud vases in this article were created at the lathe. I just want whatever I thought would look nice and would progress the skills that I'm wanting to demonstrate here. The first Bud vase here, I noticed something special right at the start. As soon as I turned this blank round, I could see spectacular spalting in it. Gray birch is well known for spalting very quickly. For me, this meant that I had to keep my turning simple for 2 reasons. The first reason is the wood might be a little punky and might tear out too much, so I got to be careful with it. And it may not hold detail well. The other reason is that Mother Nature is a better artist than I am, and sometimes it's better to have a simpler design, more, to highlight the grain and show the elegance of it. So I chose to do this one. The reason why it's first is because this is the simplest of the 5 vases that we'll be showing in the video today. Long, gentle curves are an easy place to start practicing with the gouge. Nothing about the shape of this one is difficult. Practicing the long concave and convex curves is a great place to start your working with a gouge. Hollowing out the flared mouth of the vase is the only hollowing work needed on this Bud vase. It's just the mouth. The hole that's drilled in it is adequate for a dry vase such as this. I used a small gouge and used pull cuts to transition from the 3/8 inch hole that was drilled there to the wider part of the mouth. I chose to cut a 45-degree bevel on the rim because I thought it would look good. Once I was satisfied with the shape, I sanded it with 240 grit and parted it off from the waste with a parting tool. I sanded the bottom smooth, signed and dated it, and then finished it with polyurethane. I'm going to flash up a photo up here of the finished vase with some flower arrangements put in it and set ready to show off. This next vase, I unfortunately don't have any good specific video footage of this. We did have some camera trouble. This one we selected for inside 90-degree turns for practice. It's a very important technique. The round base of this uses a kind of inside angle to transition into the neck, and then again to transition from the neck into the rounded lip around the mouth. To make this cut, you have to twist the tool outward almost onto its side, rolling into the cut. This allows you to get the nose of the tool cleanly into the corner you're cutting. If your spindle gouge is properly ground, you should be able to cut the angle even sharper than 90 degrees. It's important to learn how to do this and get good at it, because the technique will allow you to make even more interesting cuts with your gouge in the future. And you will see it on the other Bud vases that is selected in this video. The mouth of this vase is simpler than the Bud vase number 1 in that the corners are just rounded instead of hollowed out. The parting off, sanding, and finishing operations were a repeat of the previous vase. This third Bud vase was inspired by a genie bottle. There is no new techniques explored that weren't already covered in my first 2 examples. I made the mouth to remind people of a wine bottle. The inside angle on the base is a carryover from the previous example as well. That inside angle is the way I cut it is the same technique I used for that 90 degree, and this may be close to 90 degree as well. Part of me hates making the same thing over and over again. I hope this illustrates using my imagination. If you choose to make Bud vases after reading this article, I hope that you at least try to turn your own artistry loose. That for me is one of the most fun things about making things on the wood lathe. Now, if you did want to make what I've made here, if you want to copy my work, I do offer plans on my Etsy shop, MFCP Woodworking. You'll be able to get a copy of that there. It is available on all 5 of these. It's a package. For the 4th Bud vase here that I've created for this video, making beads is an important element of wood turning, and I usually make them with a skew. But in this particular case, you can make them with a gouge, and it's not that much more difficult. It's just that that's the tool that I usually use. But in this case, I used the gouge just to show that it could be done. Again, it's saying that rolling cut into that tight corner, and then defining it other ways. The other thing I really liked about this particular vase is the element that the base is angled up towards the mouth, which the angle continues an imaginary line that matches the outside diameter of the flared mouth. I like visually how this works together, and these elements made it work out kind of nicely, and it's one of the reasons why I selected it. As you can see, again, I've included a picture of the finished vase with a flower arrangement in it. One thing to keep in mind is that I do make these videos available as an instructional article as well, available from the link in the comment, not in the comments, in the description. One thing to keep in mind with those, if you are looking to support my channel in any way, one of the best ways you can do that is just to go look at one of those articles, or a lot of them, because I do get paid for views there, even though I don't have enough of a channel here to get paid on YouTube. That may eventually come, but I do get some kind of compensation for the articles, and I appreciate anyone who takes the time to go look. For my 5th design, I'm not sure what I was thinking when I came up with this, but I kept it as part of the selection for this video. for a couple of reasons. One thing, it is a nice Bud vase made entirely with a gouge again. This one, however, is made from a spalted chunk, the same as Bud Vase, the third selection, the little genie bottle. The problem was this one chipped out a little bit, and I had to make some adjustments to the profile of it to correct that, to make it something so that it didn't look like a mistake. It looked like that's what I planned all along. The bead on the bottom was supposed to be similar in concept as the previous Bud Vase. However, because of the chip out, I had to slope into the cut there from both sides, so it gives it a different feel. Also, I made a collar at the bottom of the neck, which I thought was an interesting element. It's a little harder to do, but it's basically the same as making a bead. Also, just flared out the mouth of it, hollowed that out some because of the shape, and it came out quite nicely. This is the beauty of being able to improvise as you go. If there is a fault in the wood, you can just work around it. It's not a big deal, and you're not trying to match something else exactly. If you're still watching at this point in the video, give us a like and a subscribe. It would help the channel a great deal. Do appreciate anyone who's taking the time to listen to my work here. If you like what you saw, feel free to comment about what's here. There are lots of small projects that you can make to practice your turning. Bud Vases is one of my favorites. I could come up with 5 completely new models in an afternoon. If interest is high, I will try to produce another video with 5 more models designed for practicing using the skew instead of the gouge. I also would probably do a set of 5 where you would use mixed tools for practice, and probably do another one with glued up 2x4s, which I've done before. I've done an article on that as well, and a video. It's a lot of fun to do. It would take me more time to make the video and edit it and do all that work than it would to actually make the projects. If you want to make the same thing yourselves, plans again are available in my Etsy shop, MFCP Woodworking. You should be able to find it there. Otherwise, there is a link in the description again. I hope this article also inspires you to come up with your own designs. One of the biggest parts of enjoying working with a lathe is the artistry, and I'd love to see people develop that, because it's nice to see people being able to make something themselves, design themselves. Thank you for watching. I always do appreciate the time people take to look at my work. And always remember, time flies whether you're having fun or not.